Welcome to Talking Giants presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And we got some more Giants camp recaps. We've been at the last practices. We have Ryan Dunleavy on coming on later. We talk about Saquon, Darren Waller. We just talk about Giants and the receiving core, which I think is becoming a more and more interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And we got some the pop and pass, O-line versus D-line one-on-one. So I want to talk about the trenches. But Justin, I think the thing that is like on all of our minds is that Jalin Hyatt is just starting to pop off. Like, he is every day popping off. Like, he's had 2 deep touchdowns from Tyrod Taylor, 2 deep touchdowns from Daniel Jones, and you are seeing why, hey, he didn't just score at Tennessee because of the offense. It helped, but the main reason he won the wide receiver of the year award is because he can truly just run past anybody.
And Jalin Hyatt's role so far this training camp is exactly what, in a perfect Giants world, what we wanted it to be and what we thought it would be. Except when things work out as perfectly as planned and as perfectly as we think, that's kind of awesome. So that's definitely worth celebrating. It's not even like Jalin Hyatt is, I think he's, this tremendous route runner, and he's showing that so far through camp. But everything that we've seen Jalin Hyatt do, which is every time that he has been asked in a 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 to just go deep and burn dudes, he's burning everyone. And it's so fun, and it's so impressive, and it's so cool.
Yeah, he's consistently able to get that separation. There was a touchdown on Thursday where he's in the slot, which he's been mostly on the outside. He even talked about that in his press conference. Like, I'm an outside wide receiver here.
Even though he was mostly in the slot at Tennessee, and people thought he was a slot receiver. No, he's an outside wide receiver in the NFL.
But they put him in the slot, and he goes up the seam. Which how long has it been since and it's training camp, so we still haven't seen it. But how long has it been since we've seen someone go up the seam and get the ball deep? And he beats the nickel corner and then splits Xavier McKinney and DJ. It was like a game atmosphere almost, because we see him live beat him. And then the next thought that goes through everyone's head is, Daniel Jones, are you going to throw this to him? Because we haven't seen Daniel Jones throw the slot seam. We've seen the slot fades, but not the slot seam. He throws it, and then that ball felt like it was in the air for 10 minutes, and it just drops right into the
50-yard bomb.
Yeah, right into the bucket of Jalin Hyatt for a touchdown over McKinney and Darnay Holmes.
So for those who weren't there, first of all, Giants put out a nice little video of it, kind of following and keyframing the ball throughout the air. But it felt like watching it. Remember John Ross 2021 against the Saints, where it felt like the same exact throw of 2 guys were draped onto the back of John Ross, and it just fell perfectly into Jalin Hyatt's hands, where it was Darnay Holmes trailing, and then also, Darnay Holmes in the slot. Jalin Hyatt was lined up in the slot that play. And then also Xavier McKinney was trailing, and they were right there, man. They were really right there, except it falls right into the breadbasket of Jalin Hyatt. He gets enough separation where he can kind of complete the catch and complete the play, and it's a touchdown Giants. And my immediate reaction was, as soon as touchdown Hyatt catch, I had to take off my glasses, because I'm like, did I just see what I saw? Yeah. It was electric.
And then on an 11-on-11, he runs a post versus Tre Hawkins, touchdown.
Yep.
And then before he was getting as much first team. Like, now he's basically only getting reps with the ones. You get a couple with the twos, but he's getting his reps with the ones. Like, when he was with Tyrod Taylor, it was like 2 days in a row where he just goes up the middle of the field. Tyrod Taylor puts it out there for him. He goes and gets a touchdown. So with this weird jumbled wide receiver room coming into the camp, is like, all right, well, what's this guy's role? Like, we know Hodgins, Campbell, and Slayton are the projected starters, but what is Shepard's role? What is Hyatt's role? And you can see, okay, Hyatt is they have a role for him, and it's to create big plays as he gets rounds out the rest of his game, and which he still needs to do.
Yeah.
But speed is valuable. It's why I even saw Darius Slayton, who's still a flawed wide receiver, have the impact that he did as a rookie, because that speed is just, it's the thing that matters the most when it comes to playing wide receiver. So I'm excited to see him continue to grow, hopefully get some opportunities in the preseason to try some of that stuff. And then as we get to Dallas week 1, how involved will Jalin Hyatt be?
Yeah. And just with that personal grouping frequency that we saw, there have even been some plays where I've seen Darius Slayton line up in the slot. So I think we may see that a little bit more this year, where if you have Paris Campbell, who has outside-inside versatility, you can have a formation with Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton, Jalin Hyatt, which if I were to say, if this team has like a NASCAR formation, Bobby, on offense, it would be Jalin Hyatt, Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, and like Darren Waller, right? Like that's your 11 personnel. That's like your NASCAR. That's your speed package, right? I could see a play where either Hyatt in the slot, Slayton in the slot, because they've done that. They've tinkered with that a few times in camp because Campbell does have that outside-inside versatility. Campbell did not practice on Thursday. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Hopefully it's just like a maintenance day for him.
And I do want to talk about that a little bit too. But even like so, Hyatt still has some work to do on the regular parts of your route tree where you're not running past. And we've seen him struggle to get separation on a lot of those. But here's the difference between Hyatt and a lot of guys who fit his like type. Is Hyatt is a great hands catcher, and he's shown strong hands. There was that route on the smash concept that we had a couple days ago where he snags. I mean, he rips that ball.
It was the whole shot throw, right?
Yeah, the whole shot throw where he just rips that ball out of the air. We've seen plays where guys are draped on his back on like skinny posts or a square in, and he's just making those tough catches. Even though like that's not like he's a speed guy, but he makes those tough catches so that like if he does figure out like all the nuances of route running, it's like, man, this is a deadly type of player. And even before then, it's like this guy's very useful for an offense that's looking to create explosives. Like they went into the combine and free agency, and everyone knew, talking about the New York Giants, they are adamantly working to become a more explosive offense. And I think that flows into Daniel Jones as well too. We've seen him take the shots this camp. Yeah. Where last year we didn't. And an offense that in last year's camp that was trying to be explosive. They weren't running the offense that they were running through the season in camp last year. They were trying to create explosives. This year we've seen Slayton get a couple big ones. Paris Campbell the other day got two deep passes thrown to him. Even Isaiah Hodgins, even though he hasn't brought them in, has been thrown some contested deep situations. Waller has gotten those opportunities, and obviously Jalin Hyatt as of late. So this offense is going to make a real effort to be more explosive.
And they need to.
Yeah.
They were dead last in it last year. And, I've done all my work over the years on, I think this is on the top of my brain. Last year, if you were top 10 in explosive plays, you had your winning percentage was 63%. I haven't found through the last 3 years of me doing this football analysis thing that I'm paid to do, I haven't found a stat that is more correlated to wins and losses than explosive play rate and specifically explosive pass rate. I mean, it's literally 63% that if you finish in the top 10, that's like that's your winning percentage. So, and they were dead, and it's so impressive on what the Giants did last year because they were dead last in that regard. And again, to cap off Hyatt, the fact his role and what he's doing, it's exactly what we thought it would be. It's exactly what we wanted it to be, and it's so nice to see things kind of work out like in the ideal scenario.
Yeah. Before we get into the rest of this podcast, this is brought to you by some special people. Patrick McGovern, that's Connor McGovern's brother, who's a center who actually starts in New York.
Wow.
Just Frankie, regular old Frankie. Bill, I actually picked up Bill from the airport, the J-Mac no matter what, and then Kaz Pierce, who's Antonio Pierce's brother. Justin, who are these people as Jake crawls under the desk?
Wow, Jake. They went to patreon.com/talkofgiants, and for $2 a month plus some other tiers, you get to hang out with us live while we record the shows. Yeah, okay, Jake. Hey, excited? Weird, huh? Go to patreon.com/talkofgiants. Bobby Skinner will send you some stickers when he's back in Florida. Plus, there's, I said shirt raffles, so you know the drill. Thanks for Jake for crawling. I love that. I would never be able to crawl and be that athletic. Patreon.com/talkofgiants.
Other wide receiver stuff. Paris Campbell took what he said was a maintenance stay on Thursday. Supposedly he
did
has
say that.
Arthritis in the knee, and it's something that's kind of newer, and they're trying to stay on top of it, which is worrisome for Paris Campbell. But I don't want to do a deep dive on injuries with Paris Campbell right now until there's an injury. But what was interesting is with Paris Campbell out,
he said that?
Yeah, Cole Beasley is the backup slot wide receiver. Like, not in like battles with it. Like, Cole Beasley got all of the reps at slot wide receiver.
I don't even think that's interesting. Who else would it be?
Sterling Shepard.
But we know he's we know that he's an outside receiver.
But Sterling Shepard plays the slot really well. They're using him as at the outside, but he plays the slot really well.
Okay, yeah, I just don't, and I know a lot of people are maybe surprised to hear that Cole Beasley has made it clear, but I don't think that is surprising. Like, Sterling Shepard's an outside receiver, and he's been an outside receiver even after Golden Tate leaves in like 2019.
Well, they put him in the slot to start. Like, he was a slot in 2021 when you had Galladay and Slayton, and even he plays a lot in the slot. But Sterling Shepard's a better player than Cole Beasley. I think he can perform in the slot better than Cole Beasley at this point of their careers. But Beasley he is the backup guy, and even after practice, like the two people Jones was working with after practice was Beasley and Crowder. And Shepard's really not getting any first team to run at all. But it's, does Beasley make this team when he got signed, camp body? No, he's truly, like, they rotated him in already, and now he is like getting all of the backup slot reps. And if Paris Campbell gets injured, which, guess what? He's done the majority of his career. Well, we are now looking at a guy who is getting a lot of playing time for the New York Giants and Cole Beasley, who, doesn't have the speed and the burst that Paris Campbell has. Doesn't have anywhere close to that. But he does have, the short area quickness and the ability to work those option routes really well. But it does, if you lose Paris Campbell in the slot, you are taking away some of what this offense can do.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But already, even if Paris Campbell is healthy and he's in the lineup, I already think that we're going to see a good amount of Cole Beasley, like in short yardage situations, red zone packages, and we've talked about that as the weeks have kind of gone on in camp. So even when Cole Beasley is here, even when Paris Campbell is healthy, Cole Beasley, I think, has a very clear role for this Giants offense.
But I figured that if with a day with Campbell out, they would try and work Shepard in, and he's been almost solely with the second team, besides a rep here or there with the first team, and he's been only there. And Tre Hawkins actually had a pass broke up to him on the sideline today.
This is tough for Shep. He's only been back from a major injury for a week, but it hasn't looked awesome. That's a tough sentence to say, and I trust that he's still good, and I trust that he's gonna, as camp gets on, he's gonna get better and everything like that. But it's been a rough. Like, Cole Beasley has looked better than Sterling Shepard so far this camp.
We also haven't seen Shep in the slot though, which is where I think he can be more. If Shep has slowed down a little bit, when you talk about outside, inside, well, then he needs to go to the inside. Okay. Because that's how he can prolong his career and be more successful in the NFL. Because he can still do all the things that you need to do in the slot. And I truly do believe better than Cole Beasley.
Yep.
Like,
he's coming back from a major
I hope
injury.
to God that's not a hot take that he's better than Cole Beasley. When health. 1 year ago, the player that he was would probably be the best wide receiver on this team unless Jalin Hyatt pops off.
Right, for sure.
So other offensive stuff. Offensive line. We finally got to see some one-on-one drills. And obviously all the focus was on Evan Neal, and they only got 2 reps. And I did a film breakdown on this. There's some positives and negatives. I think the positive is that he does look better. He's getting out of his stance quicker. He looks like a more calm, cool, and collected player. But he doesn't look like Andrew Thomas looked at the start of year 2. Where it's like, oh, this guy's just a really, really good pass protecting tackle. Where Thomas was like a elite pass protector in his year 2. Neal doesn't look at that point. And we also see when they are working 11 on 11 when he looks his best. Like, he's not getting blown up. He's not getting made to look silly, which is huge improvement from last year. But they're also not able to finish plays at the quarterback, and there is a couple times where I'm like, maybe Azeez bends the edge and gets to the quarterback on this play if it were live. Maybe he's able to work to the inside, but he definitely looks better, and that's encouraging. We're going to need to see game reps before you make any final conclusions, but it's noticeable that Evan Neal is a quicker player, a more confident player in year 2.
Yeah, getting out of his stance, getting to his landmarks, and even when he finishes some, during the 1 day of full pads that we have seen and the 1v1 reps, a little pep in his step after the play, which is cool. The coaching staff, it's their job to defend the players and all that kind of stuff and all that jazz, but you can't tell me that knowing who Evan Neal is as a player, that it got in his head a little bit. It got in his head that he's struggling, and he wanted to be right. He wanted to get right. It was new offense and new setting differently with Bobby Johnson and going from left tackle to right tackle. So he's finally settled at right tackle the first time since maybe high school that he's played the same position 2 years in a row. So Evan Neal looking better, getting out of his stance, getting to his landmarks. That's the thing that he struggled with most last year, and he's looking all right so far in camp.
Correction. Tendinitis with Paris Campbell, not arthritis.
Okay. That was arthritis. Like that really
I got my
took
itis.
You got your itis.
Thank you to Research Rick in the chat who corrected me. Tendinitis in the knee, not arthritis.
Can we talk about right guard, please?
Yes, let's talk about right guard. So we went into this camp being like, they're not going to take that job away from Glowinski. Because, I mean, everything we had heard out of OTAs and stuff and just human nature of, like, they signed this guy. They're not going to take away this vet's job. Was that, A, they're going to work Bredesen and Azudu and John Michael Smith at center and guard. And through 5 days of camp, we basically saw that. Where it was John Michael Smith and Ben Bredesen at center, and then Azudu and Ben Bredesen at left guard. Like through 5 days of camp, that's what we saw. You saw Ben Bredesen get a right guard rep for the backups here and there, but it was very little. The last 2 days, they have rotated Ben Bredesen in that right guard, and then on Thursday, day 7, he was the starter at right guard the entire practice. From beginning to end, he was the starter, and Mark Glowinski from beginning to end was the backup right guard.
And Azudu was at left guard.
When they were going through walkthrough installs, Mark Glowinski was with the second team, Ben Bredesen's with the first team. And then when you go watch one-on-ones, which interior guy looked the best? It was Ben Bredesen by a good amount. And that was against backups because at that time he was working with the twos. But he did look the best, and we saw last year him be the best on the interior for them last year, specifically as a pass protector, to where I didn't think this would happen. But at day 7, you're starting to, things are starting to play out. Like John Michael Smith, he's the starting center now. There's no debate about that. Jason Pinnock, he's the starting safety now. There's really no debate about that. Linebacker's still in the air. This interior offensive line is still in the air, but most of the other and nickel corner is but I still think it's going to Flott, but we'll talk about that. But to day 7 to yank out Mark Glowinski and a veteran and put him in the second team and put Ben Bredesen at right guard, I don't think you do that just to cross train.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go. The first 6 days of camp, it felt like, all right, Ben Bredesen going at left guard. All right, Ben Bredesen at center of the series. All right, Ben Bredesen at right guard. And it would literally be first team. Ben Bredesen has gotten reps at left guard, center, and right guard throughout the first 6 days with the first team, all 3 of those positions. Ben Bredesen was still on the third team today, except he was at center. So he's still cross-training, but this felt different since there was not the rotation of Glowinski going in, Bredesen coming out, or Bredesen going in for Azudu coming out. They ran with the same 5 all day on Thursday, and it feels different.
It was the first time that Mark Glowinski didn't start the day at right guard, and this is coming off of the day 6 practice on Tuesday, where they finished the day with Bredesen at right guard. So maybe there was something that Bobby Johnson kind of got to his wit's end and okay, I'm gonna make this change. So when we show up on Friday morning, when you guys are listening to this podcast, my eyes are peeled. How do they roll out that offensive line?
They're going to be in full pads,
because
right?
If Ben Bredesen rolls out with it Friday morning, like you said, in full pads, then damn, we might have the lineup that we kind of said rightful is the lineup you should want. Jameis at center, Azudu at left guard, and Ben Bredesen at right guard. And maybe what it took was, hey, Azudu and Bredesen both look noticeably better than Mark Glowinski in camp. And we, maybe they seen the growth that they want in Azudu. We're like, okay, we don't need to put you in a battle with Ben Bredesen. So I hope that's what happens, and I'm going to have my eyes peeled out for it.
And credit to this coaching staff, because despite Mark Glowinski having
their first, not big signing, but their first, contract of note.
Yeah, I mean, despite Glowinski having an $8 million cap hit this year, now they can't cut him. It would basically be $8.6 million in dead cap, and there are no cap savings. So there's no need to cut him anyways. You need depth. Right, you do need depth, but I mean, credit to this. I don't want to. We'll see how the summer develops and everything like that, but I even said this yesterday about Tre Hawkins. Tre Hawkins, and if there's a little bit of a position battle there for outside corner. Credit to this regime and this coaching staff for, even though this is a guy that you brought in last year, and Ben Bredesen is not one of their guys. They did keep him, but he was like a Gettleman guy that Gettleman
he started out
for.
with the third team last camp.
Yeah. Credit to him for playing the best guys, because right now it looks like Azudu and Bredesen are better than Glowinski. Like I said, we'll see how camp develops, but this is a cool, good sign as of right now.
We want to talk about the defense. First, why don't you talk to us about Factor?
I'll talk to you about Factor, and oh boy, we have long days of training camp. Especially if we're recording with some beat reporters after practice, and then we're coming back here and we're live streaming, and then guess what? We're going to take about a half an hour and gather our notes and gather our thoughts and do whatever we need to do, and then we're going to end recording, and I'm going to edit the episode. So these are long days where sometimes I'm out of the house from 7 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night, 8:30 p.m. And you want to know what? When I get home, the last thing that I want to do is cook a meal. But with Factor, because I just placed a whole other order of Factor, when I use code GIANTS50, I actually got 50% off my entire order, which is crazy. So I have a whole bunch of Factor meals, throw it in the microwave, and they're good.
Yeah, they're good.
And I savor them, and they're awesome. When I say Factor has changed my life, Factor really has. I want you to head to factormeals.com/Giants50 and use code Giants50 to get 50% off. That's code Giants50 at factormeals.com/Giants50 to get 50% off. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did. And it's very portion controlled. It's good food, chickens, meats,
I love their chicken and
vegetables,
goat cheese thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I really like that.
Factor.
All right, the defensive side, not as fun because the offense has obviously been better than the Giants' offense so far, and really the only time the defense has looked good is
when they're blitzing.
When they're blitzing and sending these pressures, and you're getting free rushers. But there's not much like beating the guy in front of you happening from the defense.
Yeah.
And usually when it is, it's freaking Tre Hawkins, your 6th-round rookie. But what I think is the most discouraging thing from defense, really more so than anything else, maybe the only true discouraging thing, because defense, we kind of talk about individual players more so than team in a camp atmosphere. Nickel corner is not a fun position battle. No. First of all, because they want to play Tre Hawkins, they are giving Adoree Jackson nickel corner reps. They're trying that out, and let's talk about that. But they're trying that out, but they're not no one in those nickel corners have just okay, you're going to go out there and start with the 3. So let's talk about the Adoree nickel corner thing, because I think that's been a conversation. Week 1 versus the Dallas Cowboys
makes sense.
It makes sense because you're playing CeeDee Lamb. When you're playing the Rams, it makes sense because you're going up against Cooper Kupp. But the idea of just you want to get the 3 best players out there sounds good. Guess what? I want Adoree Jackson, our best cornerback, covering the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, when we play the Eagles, do we want 2 rookie corners covering A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? When we play whoever, teams that
the Commanders, you want a rookie covering Terry McLaurin while Adoree Jackson's going to cover Jahan Dotson's good, but he's also slow. I don't need that. It's
Adoree needs to be on the best wide receivers, and then all but 3 games this year, and 2 against the same team, the best wide receivers line up on the outside. Obviously, you're going to do different formations within a game, but Adoree should not be there, quote unquote. He shouldn't be having the Darnay Holmes role that there was last year.
No,
when you obviously matchups and you try different things and you do different things against different formations, but the nickel corner is a defined role in defense. Adoree Jackson shouldn't be in that defined role. Cordale Flott is the one I still think should be in it, but Cordale Flott has not really been impressing me since day 2. He's been getting beat, and a lot of times against second stringers. And then Darnay Holmes, who was over the last couple of days, has gotten some 3rd-string reps.
And then he gets back beat first team on
consistently.
Thursday.
Gets beat consistently. And it's just right now there's no fun or good option right there at nickel corner. Where I wasn't taking Nick McLeod seriously, maybe maybe he should be the nickel corner. Maybe they should get him out of that safety situations and play him in nickel corner because they haven't looked really good at that deep safety anyways. But maybe it's time to put Nick McLeod at nickel corner because right now, like Flott, there's still, you still have hope for Flott, and Flott should be the starter right now, but he has not came out here and pressed and in his training camp. But guys should just be able to stand out the way guys like Tre Hawkins have.
And now I'm even at the point of I need a Hail Mary, and I want Aaron Robinson. I need Aaron Robinson back on this practice field too to compete for this. And Aaron Robinson's been a guy that's never been able to stay healthy in his entire NFL career. And we're looking at he suffered his injury almost a year ago, and he's still running on the side and practicing on the side and stuff like that. So yeah, man, it's not great. It's not a great spot right now, and I hope that I'm trusting that right now we're on day 7 going into day 8 of camp. I'm trusting that putting Adoree Jackson in the slot is simply we want Tre Hawkins to get reps with the first team, and we want to see what we got in this guy.
And Tre Hawkins has only practiced with the first team the last few days.
Right.
And part of it has been putting Adoree in the slot, but the majority of it has been giving Adoree rest. I know it's something we're talking about, but majority of Tre Hawkins' first team snaps have come at Adoree Jackson not participating, less so in the slot.
Right.
So kind of
even Thursday,
it lines up with what we're saying.
Yeah.
But most of it is, and Adoree should get the type of rest. He's a proven vet in this league who's got an injury history. I don't need to overwork him. But it is so with Tre Hawkins, we said this on the live stream the other day, is that we were wondering how serious do we take Tre Hawkins? Well, the coaching staff is taking him serious because for three straight practices, the guy has not taken a rep outside of the first team.
Yep. And he's been one of the most competitive players in camp. Not just good for a rookie, not just one of the most competitive rookies, not just a good story. Tre Hawkins has been one of the most competitive and consistent players throughout this entire Giants camp so far. Would you agree?
I mean, on defense, who on the first team defense has stood out more than Tre Hawkins?
And even when he gets beat, it's not bad.
Adoree's gotten beat on plays. Why do you think Darius Slayton's gotten a lot of catches? Adoree's gotten beat. Now, the passer, Dexter Lawrence probably would be, but it's hard to see kind of that stuff.
They've had one day of full pits.
Yeah.
And you're not hitting the quarterback, and they're not running the ball.
Yeah, so Tre Hawkins has stood out really well. Banks hasn't been targeted the last couple of days. I would love to go back and watch film and see exactly how he's doing, but not being targeted is a hell of a lot better progress than
what he was doing the first couple days.
The first 4 or 5 practices of Giants camp.
Absolutely. So I'm at a point with the whole. I know it's kind of a hot topic right now, and I can get pretty hot about it if you get me going, but I hope right now we're just at the early part of camp where they want to see what Tre Hawkins has. They want Tre Hawkins and Deonte Banks getting first team reps at the same time, while also they want Adoree Jackson out there for at least a portion of practice. So that's the lineup that they're going with. And hey, if they are playing Cooper Kupp, if they are playing CeeDee Lamb, that kind of lineup and configuration with Adoree in the slot and then the 2 guys on the outside, that is an option that they can go to. I am trusting this coaching staff that is not the option that they will be going with and they're banking on this year.
Yeah, I would be excited to see that trio. But like we said,
in the right situation.
While they are doing Adoree Jackson in the slot, the majority of it is not Adoree Jackson in the slot. The majority of Tre Hawkins snaps are Adoree Jackson getting rest.
Yeah. Aaron Robinson, I can't believe I'm the Hail Mary for Aaron Robinson to get back and try and compete. But
do you have anything? Yeah. Do you have anything else before we get into the interview?
Swing tackle and edge depth is a concern for me right now. I know it's a this is a very 25-minute point. 25-minute point of the pod point, but the fact that Wink has been blitzing so much, it's frustrating for us. I'm confident the coaching staff is continuing to evaluate these guys and they have an opinion on them, but it's frustrating just a little bit for us because I'm trying to watch the edge rushers, even just the ones and the twos. I'm trying to evaluate Tyree Phillips this summer and Matt Pear, and also can anybody, between O'Shane Ximines, Timon Fox, Baldonado, the UDFA at a Pitt, are they gonna? Is anybody gonna do anything? Is anybody gonna stand out? And the edge depth outside of Aziz and Kayvon, it was a concern kind of coming into the summer, and nobody has really stood out.
Also, Jihad Ward is injured. He hasn't practiced since the first practice or the second practice.
Right.
I don't know what the extent of the injury. I mean, he's out there.
Yeah, he was participating in individuals even during Thursday's practice.
But he hasn't taken a team drill rep.
Correct.
So there's some type of injury that Jihad Ward is dealing with.
Yeah.
Also, Tyree Phillips has who I thought was the clear and away swing tackle coming in the camp, has had a pretty bad game.
Yeah, and it's tough to evaluate those players when some plays are ending so quickly with nickel corner blitzes and safety blitzes that quarterbacks are therefore scrambling, and then it's like, well, these tackles and edge rushers don't even get a chance to finish their plays. So it's a little frustrating from that standpoint. But I also need A'Shawn Robinson to get out there too.
Yeah,
because the interior defensive lineman room looks a lot different when he's not out there. But I think Dan Duggan said that out of all the guys like that are still on PUP, that A'Shawn Robinson's like the closest to being ready to rock and roll.
Real deal.
What do I got?
Do we got SeatGeek?
That's it. Need to see O-line, D-line stuff over the final 2 days when we're in New Jersey. Yep. We're going to Detroit next week.
Yep. Today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. If you don't know what SeatGeek is, they're a ticketing app that makes buying tickets super simple. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek, including sports, concerts, festivals, and more. They always want to make sure you are getting a good deal. So when you are on the app, look for the green dots. Green means good. Red means bad. Pretty simple, right? People figure it out. Every ticket is backed by their buying guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. Wow. We appreciate that. We've got the hookup. Use code GIANTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code GIANTS. Click the link in the description to download the app. You'll be glad you did. Before we get into the interview.
Yeah.
Should we announce that we're canceling the watch party before or after the interview? I totally forgot about that.
No, well, you just announced it now.
Well, we could announce it now and then talk about it after.
Let's talk about it after. We're canning the watch party.
Yeah.
You will get your money back.
We'll talk, yes. Well, you don't. Not yes. You will get your money back if you did get it.
Here's Ryan Dunleavy.
Here's Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. All right, we now welcome onto the program Tony Award front runner,
official
New York Post writer Ryan Dunleavy. Ryan, how you doing, my man?
I'm flattered.
First time on the van. First time meeting us. The first time you met us is just, hey, get in the van. Get right there in the middle.
Yeah, the two strangers who offered me candy.
Mm-hmm.
I got in the van. Sorry, Mom.
We actually had, I know we want to get into this interview, we had some guy walking past us, and he made the joke to his kid, like, don't get in their van, kid. And then his kid was like, my dad listens to you in the shower. So it was like a nice, like, all right, you got to jab at us. We got to jab. Your kid gave us a jab back at you.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. I'm a listener. So I actually saw you guys the other day on the sideline, but you snubbed me. So.
Oh, no.
Excuse me. Look at the sign in the back. All right. So.
What does that say?
You'll see it. You'll see it on Twitter.
Okay.
Is it another Saquon, my girlfriend will get back with me?
Well, we figured
Something
Saquon's
like
a little hard to get. We're going after Chris Myrick with our sign.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we're recording this a couple of days before this actually goes out. So I want to talk less about practice and more about you've been on top of the Saquon Barkley stuff from the get-go. Obviously, you've been connected, from both sides of that. When he signed the 1 year to get in the camp, like what were your thoughts? Like, did you think that was something that was capable of being done?
I talked to somebody the night before he signed, probably at 9-ish, who is a good source for me, and was like, nah, he's not. No, well, no chance. Like, see you Monday of week 1. And so I believe it when Saquon says he had a last-minute epiphany. I believed that really happened because I went to bed, woke up at 8 a.m. the next morning to 36 text messages from my boss, my coworkers, other Giants writers, sources, and I had no – and I appreciate you saying it. I think I was very plugged into the whole situation from start to finish, and I had no idea he was going to sign that Monday. I think it was really that much of a surprise to everybody around him and everybody in this facility, a pleasant surprise that it got done that quickly.
And that's why you're the Tony frontrunners, because you have been on top of that, and you got the Daniel Jones contract.
What's your theory on what changed?
I think he realized he really had nothing to gain. The only thing he was going to gain was the only win he could have had was no franchise tag in 2024. And I think in the end he realized that was probably not worth causing a distraction for his teammates, that he really believes the Giants could have a special year. Like, I'm talking like go further in the playoffs than last year. And he didn't want to look back and say, you know what, if I had been there earlier, maybe I would have been better for the start of the season, or maybe I wouldn't have got hurt, or maybe we wouldn't have had the distractions in training camp that were my fault that got us off to a bad. He didn't want to be blamed. And look, he's image conscious, I guess might be a good way to say it. I mean, he's admitted that he reads everything on Twitter, and he is very aware of the perception of him, and he didn't like the idea. Fans were not taking his side, and I honestly think that the fans went too far. The fans turned on him. He's their best player, their best playmaker, because I'm sure Dexter and Andrew Thomas, you can make a case, are better players. He's the best playmaker, and he's been the face of the franchise. He's still the most popular jersey when I look out here. He's beloved in the locker room. He's done all the right things, and fans turned on him very quickly, and I don't think that sat well with him.
Yeah, and that's even as unrightful, as undeserved that be, that's just the way it's going to go. Like, you're a fan of the team. You're like 90% of fans who aren't, like, breathing it every single day on Twitter, reading every tweet. Like, it's just like, hey, I want this guy on my team. He's not showing up. Doesn't like he would have taken his hit. But I actually, as much as he is focused on his image and making sure he's always putting himself out the right way, like you said, I truly do think it would have eaten him alive to not be out here.
It's not an act.
He was there for 5 years. They make the playoffs. They're ready to roll, and just not being there, I really do think that would have eaten him alive.
I totally agree. I mean, I know him pretty well. It's not an act. I know guys. I won't say them, but I know guys who it's a phony act when you put the camera on and stuff. It's really not like he loves football. He loves his teammates. He loves to win. He's as competitive a person. I played Connect 4 with him a couple years ago, and
who won?
He destroyed me, but it was as competitive. Like, that's just who he is, right? Yep. We know this. Like, he was a terrible ping pong player, and he was embarrassed, and he made himself a pretty good ping pong player. Right. Like, that's just who he is. So I don't think it's an act. Yes, I do think it really would have. It's image conscious, but it's a true image, if that makes sense. I really think it would have eaten him alive to be in Arizona, which is where he would have been, texting Daniel Jones or watching practice highlights, seeing Eric Gray or Matt Breida either struggle and know he could do better, or look good and know, hey, that they might be gaining on my heels.
So this conversation's kind of been closed out until the season's over, but this is the one thing I really haven't heard. And what is the most 2-year cash flow that you heard that he was offered? Not guaranteed, but just if he was on the team for 2 years, that he would have gotten through that deal.
About $23 million.
Really? See that? So when the $13 million per year came out, was that with like an Alvin Kamara fake year at the end that got it up to that?
It was with escalators and other things that weren't going to make it a real $13 million a year. He wasn't really going to get $39 million over 3 years.
Yeah, my question was, like, does he get like 25, 26 in the first 2 years as long as he's on the team year 2? Like, have it, virtually guaranteed versus fully guaranteed?
My understanding is he was going to get – it was a pretty straight deal in terms of per year, where he was going to get $23-ish million over the first 2 years, and the third year – wasn't super inflated. We're talking, 23, we're talking, I guess, 15, 16 year 3.
Yeah.
Which it's not like Alvin Kamara's $25 million in the last year to inflate his deal.
Right.
So it's not a total Alvin Kamara, but yeah, it was basically pay as you go.
I want to ask you this, and we'll move off Saquon Barkley.
Oh, boy.
For this season, you could only pick one. Who do you think would have a more positive impact on the Giants, Darren Waller or Saquon Barkley? And you can't really bring health into it because both have injuries.
Let's take out health.
I would say it's really close. I would say Saquon Barkley, because I do think what they're doing, you guys have seen it out here, I do think they're going to try to use him more as a passer, as a receiver. Obviously, he's their rusher. Darren Waller he's not going to be used as a blocker, so he's only going to be used as a passer. I think Darren Waller will easily be the second most impactful Giant offensive player since Odell Beckham, but I still think Saquon Barkley's one.
Yeah, I go Waller. We just did an episode on Daniel.
But I think it's close.
Yeah, we just did an episode on Daniel Bellinger, and as successful and as important as he was to last year, he was 37th in tight end yards last year. He was 40th of 42 in yards per route run and average depth of target. Where it's like you see Waller out here, man, and it's like something we really haven't seen in 5 years. And I just think I really think with what the Giants want to do, he's going to do like make a real impact. And I think that's kind of been lost in the conversation of all this is that they do have Darren Waller. They do have a more balanced wide receiver group where you're not calling on bums unless 4 or 5 guys get injured. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. But those incentives that he has, I mean, they're essentially not going to. He's not going to get them. You know, they relied on him so much last year, and he didn't get them.
Well, the thing is, it's such a catch-22 because to get the incentives, he has to be used as a rusher to get to 1,300 and what is it, 50?
Yeah, 1,350 rushing yards.
So he has to be used as a rusher, but he wants to be used as a receiver more to prove that he's not Nick Chubb, that he's more Christian McCaffrey than he is Nick Chubb because he was so offended by the comps that the Giants gave him. So he wants to be used as a receiver more, but if he's used as a receiver more, then that's less rushes he's going to get. So, and that's just like it's the whole running back conundrum. It's like if he has a bad season, he's not going to get franchise tagged or paid, but if he has a great season, then he's either going to get franchise tagged or somebody's going to say, sorry, you had a great season, but you had 300 touches, so that's a lot of wear and tear, so we can't pay you.
And he could have a better season this year than he did last year. And I'm not volume-wise, I'm ignoring that. But you could look at it from a performance standpoint. He could be way more efficient last year than this year, but not even get close to the incentive numbers.
Correct.
Which I think that's partially what I think that's kind of like a problem with how fans evaluate, then also how they evaluate contracts too. It's like we should be looking at efficiency numbers, not necessarily just solely volume numbers.
And really, for a running back, it should be games played. That's really what.
Yeah, games played, yards per carry. Even rushing yards over expected and stuff like that is stuff that's like widely ignored.
At what point does Saquon though accept that comp? Because he is closer to Chubb and Henry, and I think Henry is I think Henry's a Hall of Fame running back.
Yeah,
I think he's the best. At what point does he accept those comps and yeah, obviously he wants to be used more in receiving, but he throughout his career has been a check down option, not a used down the field option. Obviously there's plays here and there, but I wonder what point does he I am in the Chubb and Derrick Henry conversation, and I don't think that's either a bad thing either.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but to answer your question, I don't think ever, except most great athletes I've been around are never going to accept anything other than what they really want to believe.
And I agree with you on that, yeah. Like, I want Barkley going, even that Money Matters interview, he was like, I think I'm the best running back in the NFL. It's like, yeah, dude, you should think that because that's what an athlete, if you're an individual and you're an athlete, you want to be the best, you should think that you're the best.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is not going to think he's the fifth best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he would think that if he was in New England and then Tampa Bay, he would win 7 Super Bowls.
Are you the best Giants reporter?
I am not the best Giants.
Just say yes. Say yes. Say yes.
I've had a good year.
Contract negotiations coming up soon. Justin, I know you wanted to talk about Cordale Flott.
Yeah, I want to revisit a Cordale Flott conversation that we had because it was really interesting. It was like an interesting tidbit and nugget that you gave us.
It caught fire.
It did, and now it's this is not like this is not a gotcha question. No. I want to make this clear, but so. We've seen in the spring, since you kind of came on the first time, you said there were people in the Giants building last year that thought of Cordale Flott. They wanted him in the slot, but then he thought of him as an outside guy. And
he only played outside last year.
We saw that last year. So it's not like you were wrong, but they come in the spring, and then they come in camp, and he's exclusively been taking second and first team snaps in the slot. Has there been any kind of development in conversations with people that you've had or you're kind of reporting on his overall situation and maybe even the slot corner spot just maybe in general?
You saw I went back. So at the comment I made on this show last time in May or OTAs, I went back to somebody afterwards and I was like, well, he's playing a lot of slot. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, I didn't say he wasn't going to play the slot.
Oh, well.
And it was like I said we were surprised that he looked so much more comfortable on the perimeter than he did in the slot last.
Which also could be true.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
And it's a make or break. I mean, he hasn't really looked great at camp so far. And, I mean, for third-round picks, year 2 is so important. And, I'm at a point now where I think McLeod can compete in it. We're going into camp. I thought no chance. Cordale Flott is the nickel corner. They'll do a little battle with Darnay, but Flott is that guy. And they're playing around with Tre Hawkins. I don't see that sticking, but they're not just all right. Here's the job. Go be the best at it.
I think it would be Cordale over Darnay Holmes because there is a aspect of our guy. From this front office, there is a aspect of Darnay Holmes' contract would save them $2.5 million if he's cut or if he takes some sort of Darius Slayton-esque pay cut. So I think if it was just in a box, those two guys, I think it would be Cordale Flott. But I think you mentioned a guy they love is Nick McLeod, and he brings the bigger box safety to tackle. That's one thing Cordale told me he worked on. This was bulking up in the offseason to be a better tackler, so he wasn't just in on pass downs. He could be the every down nickel slot.
Which is really important as a nickel defender in today's NFL to be a good run defender.
Well, the ironic thing, to go back to Saquon, is last year was the most rushing carries in the NFL in like 20 years. Because why? Even though we're devaluing the running back, why? Well, because so many teams have gone to playing smaller safety hybrid linebackers that now team offenses are counterpunching with running. So now you need to go back to the bigger nickel slot. So that could be McLeod. And like you mentioned, Tre Hawkins has had a good camp. I don't think he's at that point yet, but he's just somebody you can feel a little bit good about, at least if, week 6 you're injury threadbare and you're not, running out there guys off the practice squad.
This has been one of my favorite questions to ask all offseason. Out of the wide receivers, who do you see leading them in receiving yards this season?
That's a great question, right? I'm gonna say Darius Slayton.
Thank you.
Always
Thank you.
Slayton.
I've been saying it. It's like every year we talk about this guy and that guy. And the end of the season, who leads them in receiving? Darius Slayton. And even out here, we've seen him be like the number one target.
Correct. I mean, look, it's not going to be magically turn around. He's not going to stop dropping passes. Like, he still drops passes, but he also makes great catches. Daniel Jones's, I don't want to say security blanket because Shep is his security blanket, but that's who Daniel Jones look. If all things being equal, he's going to drop back. He's going to look for him. Yep. So especially deep down the field, maybe it's Waller now, but it's going to be Darius Slayton. Beyond 10 yards, 15 yards, it's going to be Darius Slayton.
Even if other guys lead them in receptions,
he has a knack.
Slayton's the one that's going to get the big plays for
Correct. Yes. He's got a catch and run element. I think that it's going to be Darius Slayton because it's always Darius Slayton. I looked it up. Only 13 guys have led their team in receiving yards 3 of the last 4 years. And when I say that, it's the guys it's Justin Jefferson. It's
you need to tweet that.
I did.
Oh, okay. I missed it. Sorry, Ryan.
No. It's 13 guys, and it's all the guys you would expect.
Devontae Adams.
Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, 3 and Darius Slayton, and there's one other guy that's similar to Darius Slayton who I'll have to tweet this again later because there's one other guy who's similar to Slayton in terms of it's never like 1,000 yards. It's always the 800 range. He's not a Pro Bowler, but he's certainly doesn't get the respect maybe that he deserves. That maybe if they start throwing the ball, if there's more weapons, maybe it opens. Everybody's like, oh, Darren Waller's going to take away yards from Darius Slayton. No, maybe he opens up things for Darius Slayton.
For sure.
Trivia: who was the one guy that led it in one of the 4 years that Slayton didn't?
One of the 4 years that Slayton. So it was 20. It was not last year. It was the year before. It was 21. Mm-hmm. So it would have been. Shep was hurt. It would have been. Great question. It's escaping me right now.
Do you want a hint?
Yeah.
He was a Pro Bowler.
He was a Pro Bowler?
Yeah. That year.
No, he wasn't.
Oh, never mind. Not that.
You're wrong.
Oh, I'm wrong.
It was Kenny Galladay.
Oh, whoops.
Oh my God! It was Kenny Galladay.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Who was actually having a semi-productive year until Daniel Jones got hurt.
I would have never, ever, ever, ever guessed Kenny Galladay.
Here, we're getting a photo live mid-interview.
Ryan Dunleavy.
Appreciate it.
I would have never got Kenny Galladay. I would have said
it's one of my favorite trivia questions.
I would have guessed CJ Board before I guessed Kenny Galladay.
Let me ask one more before you get to record prediction, Bobby. What are some things in camp that you're writing about? You're talking to people, whatever. Maybe some, I don't want to say behind the scenes stuff. Maybe some things that people aren't, like we're all talking about the offense and Waller and stuff like that. Some under the radar stuff that you're keeping your eye on during this camp so far.
I mean, you can't go to a Giants camp and not pay attention to the offensive line, right? I mean, it's ruined the last however many seasons before last year. So now they have 2 open battles, and we've seen Tyree Phillips enter the mix. To me, that's not a great sign that the other 3 guys are, Azudu and Bredesen and Schmitz. If they were locking it down, 2 of these 3 guys are definitely going to start. Then we wouldn't be trying Tyree Phillips.
So the 2 battles that you're referring to, what are they exactly?
Center and left guard.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So now you have those two battles with 4 guys now in the mix. Because we've seen Giants seasons wrecked by offensive lines before, and I'm not sold that anybody other than Andrew Thomas is going to be a above-average player right now. So certainly pay attention to the offensive line every day. Pads go on today as we're recording this. It'll be nice to see what A'Shawn Robinson, if he gets out there at some point, and Nacho is out there. Be nice to see what they can add, because the defensive line, you can't have Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams play 85% of the snaps all season.
Right,
You just can't do it, not sustainable. And then the safety battle is interesting, right? Like I asked Dabes this the other day. There's no silver lining to what happened to Xavier McKinney. But if there was a silver lining, you got to see Pinnock and Belton a lot last year. So maybe that's why they didn't spend any money, really, other than Bobby McCain on safety. So I'm very interested to see, position battles. In a nutshell, what am I watching? Position battles.
Yeah.
All right, so not the last question.
Oh, and which receiver gets cut? That is, I mean, I if you asked me coming in, I would have said Crowder and Beasley are on the outside, but you could tell already that Beasley's a player. So
yeah,
we're recording this right before you go and talk to Dable. Can you ask him a Chris Myrick question?
What would the question about Chris?
Just like what's his? It could be like what do you see Chris Myrick's? How do you think Chris Myrick's camp's gone so far?
I will, if there's an opportunity to squeeze one in, I will.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
There's I'm not going to jump over somebody. I'm not going to jump over Jordan or Duggan's.
that'd be funnier if you
the
did.
question, but if there's time here at the end, I will.
I'll Venmo you $20 if you do interrupt somebody to ask that question.
If I step over Jordan asking about Daniel Jones's development, to be like, what are you seeing out of Myrick?
Yeah.
Working on a story. What is your record prediction? What is your record prediction for the 2023 New York Giants?
All right, you're going to make me make some enemies here. I think they're 7-10.
7-10. Wow, that's the low. We've done 3 so far. That's the low end.
What else have you had?
We had Jordan was 8-9. Art Stapleton was 10-7.
Okay.
But Saquon, he wins games for them. What's the deal there?
Correct. Here's the thing, right? I think I've been around this team 6 years. The last 3 years, I've had the low. I keep track on my phone, actually, of everybody's written prediction, like published prediction.
Yeah.
So you can't say they're going to be 10 and then, put in the paper and then try to tell me you're going to be 5. No, what you put in the paper is what you're held to. You don't get to be an optimist for everybody else and a pessimist behind the scenes. So I keep track of it every year. In the last 3 years, I've had the lowest prediction. So I guess I'm the pessimist on the beat. I picked them to win 4 games last year. So take my 7 with a grain of salt.
All right, well, that's your Tony Award frontrunner, Ryan Dunleavy of New York Post. Thank you for joining us in the van.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thank you to Ryan Dunleavy for coming on the show. And before we wrap things up, I want to talk about the DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WORLD. Talking Giants vs. World. Bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code WORLD only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Massachusetts. Call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, in West Virginia, gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. All games regulated by the West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races. In Connecticut, help is available for gambling problem. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. 1 boost per eligible game. Opt-in required. Max bet $50. 10-plus leg requirement for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/baseball terms. I hope the government can work something out with gambling so we don't have to read those disclaimers every single episode.
Fuck the government.
Whoa. We're canceling the watch party.
Yeah, the government canceled our watch party.
They did.
No, so the playoff ones were the first time we ever did watch parties, and they sold out within a day.
Yeah.
Like 350 tickets. People were trying to get tickets that couldn't. So it was like, with FanFest being ruined, we were like, okay, let's do a watch party.
Let's try.
And we just
didn't sell enough tickets.
Didn't sell enough tickets to make it happen, which I get because when you think about it, all in all, it's probably
preseason Friday night.
It's preseason.
In the city.
You keep saying Friday night. It's on a Saturday night.
It is?
Yes.
Oh shit.
I think.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Friday. The 11th? Let me look.
Oh, you are right.
I am right.
I'm the wrong one.
Yeah, every preseason game that we have is on a Friday.
No, that's not true.
11th, 18th, and
26.
26. Okay, then
we have one on a Saturday.
Then 2 out of 3.
So it's just like it probably would cost just as much just to go to a preseason home game.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's a Friday night.
Live and learn, but you better make it up. Whatever can. We're having 2 watch parties during the regular season.
Yeah, those won't be canceled. So
one against the Bills.
For that.
One against the Bills and one against the Raiders. Those are the 2 watch parties that we'll be having during the regular season. You got to make up for it and you got to show up to that.
Yeah. So if you bought the tickets, you will get your money refunded. So all right. Anything else? I mean, we will
full pads.
Last 2 practices in MetLife. We have full pads on both of them. So there'll be a lot of O-line, D-line talk. And then we ship off to Detroit. So really excited to get there and see the Giants compete against other players. So we appreciate you guys. Really do thank you. Training camp has been a lot of fun, and it's because you guys have been supporting us. So we'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.